Panchakalpatarupyascha kripa sindhupyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Siguro Siyutapada Kamalam Sigurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. And one more time, a little bit louder. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everyone. It's always like going on Sankirtan. The first few words are always a little bit shaky. So many wonderful devotees here in the audience, so many senior devotees. Very nice to have Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu here in Radhadesh, who's taking charge or taking leadership in Island Temple in the Krishna Island, together with Gornitai Prabhu. Yes, coming shortly. And then we have Jai Sachinandana Prabhu, who was leading a very nice kirtan, who is traveling around in Europe, inspiring the devotees together with Nitya Manjari Mataji. Thank you for doing the arti for Srila Prabhupada. So, as it's a bit shaky, we always pray to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's amazing. We have Gornitai, we have Chaitanya Chandra, we have Jai Sachinandana. So reminds me of Katanchana Smrite Yasmin, Dushkaram Sukaram Bhavet, Vismrite Viparitum Shat, Sri Chaitanya Namami Tam. If you remember Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his mercy, then whatever is very difficult will become very easy. And if you don't remember Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whatever is very easy becomes impossible. So just like on book distribution, we never know what's going to happen on the street. I have the feeling that with this seminar on Shravanam, it's such a wonderful topic to discuss. I mentioned here the Shravanam. It's the first and foremost limb of devotional service. Remember a few years ago we gave this seminar on 999, cancelling your stay in the material existence, and one of the 4 sessions was dedicated to the 9 limbs of devotional service. And it was amazing to find in Prabhupada's books that for every limb of devotional service you can find quotes that's the best of all the 9, right? That is how the Vedic scriptures are compiled. You can find quotes that chanting is the very best of all processes. You can find quotes where Prabhupada glorifies the process of archanam. You find quotes where it's mentioned, even in Bhagavad Gita, it says that even if externally you control your senses, but if your mind is dwelling on the objects of the senses, you're a cheater. And there Prabhupada also mentions that to remember Krishna is the first and foremost of all processes, because without remembering the Lord, there is no question of devotional service. But here today and this evening also and tomorrow, we will focus on hearing and how providence is working, how Krishna is so amazing, is that in the evening tomorrow, Shyamananda Prabhu, he will give a presentation on his travels for the last few months. And he mentioned that he will focus on two aspects. One aspect is the glories of Eco Village, a project of Radhanath Swami, and the other aspect is the glories of chanting the holy names of Krishna and his realizations that he had while traveling around and focusing on the holy name. So I think it's very nice. We first focus on hearing, and then Krishna arranges that the next step is we focus on chanting. What was also quite remarkable is when I was lingering in my mind on the desire to share some insights on the process of hearing, on Shravanam. Then on the 1st of January, when Gopinath Acharya Prabhu was giving the lecture, then he, a little bit, in a not so convincing way, he mentioned that some devotees, they do some wishes for 2025, some intentions, some vratas even, or some desires to focus on certain aspects in the new year, New Year wishes. It's very common. And when I heard him speaking about it, it was like he was not so much in favor of all these commitments for the new year, because usually it lasts only for a few days. Jai Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Ki Jai. But then he mentioned, if there is a wish that you want to make or focus on, then make it increasing your hearing. So I had already planned to do these sessions, and then it was like a confirmation of Gopinath Acharya Prabhu that, okay, if you want to commit to something in 2025, then your commitment should be to increase your hearing. And I hope today and tomorrow we will also find out why hearing is so important. And that's only possible with your help, because it's not just a one-man show. We want to have some interactions as well. We have a microphone here, so we will also do some brainstorming and some sharing, okay? So before starting, it's very nice to sing a bhajan. I want to sing the bhajan of Govinda Das, Kaviraj. This is from the Padavali, and this is a very famous one, of course. It's Bhaja Hure Mana. Maybe Jesse Prabhu, could you read the translation?
O mind, just worship the lotus feet of the son of Nanda, which makes one fearless. Having obtained this rare human birth, cross over this ocean of worldly existence through the association of saintly persons. Both in the day and at night I remain sleepless, suffering the pains of the heat and cold, the wind and the rain. For a fraction of flickering happiness, I have uselessly served wicked and miserly men. What assurance of real happiness is there in all of one's wealth, youthfulness, sons, and family members? This life is tottering like a drop of water on a lotus petal. Therefore, you should always serve and worship the divine feet of Lord Hari. It is the desire and great longing of Govinda Das to engage himself in the 9 processes of bhakti, namely hearing the glories of Lord Hari and chanting those glories, constantly remembering him and offering prayers to him, serving the Lord's lotus feet, serving the Supreme Lord as a servant, worshipping him with flowers and incense and so forth, serving him as a friend, and completely offering the Lord one's very self.
It's a beautiful prayer, especially the 4th paragraph is taken from the Srimad Bhagavatam 7th canto, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, smaranam, padasevanam, archanam, vandanam, dasham, sakyam, atmanivedanam. And it's an interesting verse. Everybody knows these 9 processes of devotional service, but many devotees do not know the verse after the Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu verse, which is Iti Pumsarpito Vishnu Bhaktis Chen Nava Lakshanam Kriyeta Bhagavati Ada. And this sentence is very important. If you engage yourself in these 9 processes of devotional service, then what will happen? Kriyeta Bhagavati Ada. By doing this, Kriya means to do something. Bhagavati Ada. You will come in direct contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead immediately. Kriyeta Bhagavati Ada. Tan manye ditam uttamam. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj tells his father, Hiranyakasipu, therefore I think that these 9 processes are the topmost of all aspects of knowledge. Nothing is higher than these 9 processes. Why? Because it links one directly to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, starting with the process of hearing. Bhajahure mana Sri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare. Bhajahure mana Sri Nanda Nandana Bhaya Charanara Vindare. Dulabha manava janama satsange Durlabha manava janama satsange Taro e bhava sindure Sita atapa bata barishana Edina jamini jagire. Sita atapa bata barishana Edina jamini jagire. Vipale seveno kripana durajana Vipala seveno kripana durajana Chapala sukalaba lagire Chapala sukalaba Chapala sukalaba lagire Chapala sukalaba Edana yovana putra parijana Iteki ache parati tire Edana yobana putra parijana Iteki ache parati tire Kamala dala jala jivana talamala Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Talamala Bajahu Hari Pada Nitire Bajahu Hari Pada Nitire Shravana Kirtana Smarana Vandana Pada Sevana Dashare Shravana Shravana Kirtana Smarana Vandana Pada Sevana Dashare Pujana Sake Jana Atmani Vedana Pujana Sake Jana Atmani Vedana Govinda Dasa Vilasare Govinda Dasa Vilasare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Go Premanandi Hari Go Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschachade Shatarine. So this slide we showed on the Community Sangha Day. These were all the guest speakers that we had last year in 2024. So out of the 365 days, 103 morning classes were given by visiting guests, which is very inspiring. You see all the names of devotees that visited us and who gave different lectures in our community. So this is the mood that we want to develop more and more, is the focus in this community on hearing. And when we have strong hearing, then many other things will develop automatically. So before we really start, I offer my humble obeisance to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis here in Radhadesh Dham. The reason I wanted to facilitate this seminar is first and foremost as a selfish motivation, because I know that when I speak on these topics, then my Krishna consciousness becomes more enthusiastic. And also during the preparing time of the seminar, you're forced to focus your mind, your consciousness on Srila Prabhupada's books, which is a very nice way of spending your time. So it's first and foremost for me to inspire myself to continue hearing. When I joined Krishna Consciousness, I already had a strong affiliation for reading. Only the subject matters changed when I met Srila Prabhupada's books. They completely superseded all other literatures because Srila Prabhupada's books are so wonderful that when you have tasted this, the nectar of Prabhupada's books, then many times when you start another book, you think, nah, let me go back to the core. So I wanted to share that inspiration with all of you, and these 3 sessions will only be successful if a few of you feel a little bit more inspired in the hearing process. So if I make any mistakes, there are many senior devotees here in the room, please correct me. And if I do anything right, then it's the mercy of the Guru Parampara, my spiritual master. And if I do anything wrong, then it's my own mistake. So the agenda for the coming days is hearing why, when, how, what, and what happens. So I hope we will get through. It's many topics to discuss, and also I would really like to seek your input as well. But before hearing from you and from myself, I would like to first give the word to Srila Prabhupada. And let's see if this will work out.
Do you read? If you don't read, then you feel restless. Let me go from Japan to India, from India to Japan. You are restless because you don't read. I am laboring so hard for you, but you don't take advantage. Don't take advantage of eating and sleeping. Take advantage of the books. Then your life will be settled. My duty I am giving so valuable things. Day and night, trying to come into what to work. And if you don't take advantage of this, then what can I do for you?
You would like to hear it again? One more time, is that okay?
Do you read? If you don't read, then you feel restless. Let me go from Japan to India, from India to Japan. You are restless because you don't read. I am laboring so hard for you, but you don't take advantage. Don't take advantage of eating and sleeping. Take advantage of the books. Then your life will be settled. My duty I am giving so valuable things. Day and night, trying to come into what to work. And if you don't take advantage of this, then what can I do for you?
I think it's a quite strong statement of Srila Prabhupada. And you know what was so amazing, that you know the project of Vishnumurti Prabhu to bring these 1-minute lectures to the children. Every morning we receive 2 1-minute excerpts of Prabhupada's lectures, and there are many children in the WhatsApp group who receive those 2 links. And I was searching for a quote from Srila Prabhupada about the importance of hearing, and so I sat down with Kiran, and then this was the first, and I was thinking, okay, now I have my wonderful quote from Srila Prabhupada. So, first of all, when we really start into the why do we hear scripture, I want to give you 2 warnings. I don't want to give you these 2 warnings. These are from our scriptures. It's a very famous verse that most of you might know, but we can repeat. Please repeat after me. Dharma svanushtitam pumsam vishvaksena katasuya na utpadayatya dhiratim shrama eva hi kevalam. So here in this verse you see Dharma Swa, or if you turn it around, Swadharma. Swadharma Anushtita Pumsam. If a person is established in his Swadharma, meaning he is in a Sudra or Vaishya or Kshatriya or Brahmana, if he engages very nicely according to his nature, Visva Akshena Katasuya Na Utpadayet. So Vishva Akshena means, who knows? Vishva means the universe, like Vishva Ambara, Vishva. And Akshena means see, the eyes, seeing. So one who sees the universe is a name of the Lord, Vishvakshena. Katasu, ya, na utpadayet, yadiratim. That if you do not develop attraction for hearing about Vishvakshena, the one who oversees the universe, then Shrama eva hi kevalam. Shrama means to waste. You waste your life. You waste your time. Kevalam, big time. Like Kevala Bhakti means pure Bhakti, unalloyed Bhakti. So Shrama eva hi kevalam means you purely waste your time. So Jesse, could you read the translation, please?
The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead.
In the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he is writing that we have to engage ourselves in occupational engagements, but these engagements need to evoke our attraction for hearing and chanting. If it doesn't, then we are wasting our time. Now, of course, in the lectures of Urmila Mataji, it was very clearly stated that there is a direct link between being situated nicely and ability to focus on your sadhana. If you are doing services that take your energy and make your mind restless, it's very difficult to engage in hearing and chanting properly. So there is a correlation between your Swadharma and your sadhana bhakti. But of course, if we do not feel that our occupational activities are leading to an increased taste in hearing and chanting, then we have to do some introspection and we have to do some reflection in our spiritual life. It's a very, very nice objective in life, is to see, am I progressing towards my goal, which is Krishna consciousness, is Krishna prema. And one of the in-between steps is that you feel that your attraction for hearing and chanting is increasing. Do we do that sometimes when we look back for 1 year? Okay, 1 year ago and now, is there a difference between my taste for hearing and chanting? So if we do that reflection, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur many times said, that during Ekadasi you have to do that. Yesterday it was Ekadasi, so you can reflect, how were my 2 weeks? And how will my 2 weeks be after this? So Ekadasi is a very nice moment of reflection. So that was the first warning. The second warning, please repeat after me. Matchitta sarva durgani, mat prasada tarishyasi, atachyatvam ahankaram, nasroshasi vinangshasi. Matchitta means? Chitta means consciousness, and who is speaking this verse? Krishna. So Mat refers to me, it's Krishna. Right, not me, it's Krishna. So Krishna says, if you put your focus on me, your consciousness on me, sarva durgani, what means durgani? Difficulties. And sarva? All difficulties. Mat prasadat, my mercy, my prasadam. We have to wait 3/4 of an hour for the prasadam. Mat prasadat tarishyasi. And tarishyasi means? Tarishyasi means you overcome. So the first two sentences mean, if you put your consciousness on me, then by my mercy, the sarva durgani, all the obstacles, all the difficulties in life, tarishyasi, you will transcend. It's nice, no? Just by thinking of Krishna, all your problems will disappear. And then next sentence, atacha tvam ahankaram. But tvam means you. If you work out of false ego, nasroshasi, this is the key. Nasroshasi means? Without hearing. Thank you, Jai Satchidananda Prabhu. But if you work out of false ego, not hearing me, then he uses a very strong word. Vinangshasi. It's a very strong Sanskrit word. Destruction. So this is the translation. Jesse Prabhu?
If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost.
Strong statement, no? It's at the end of the Bhagavad Gita. It's a very strong statement towards Arjuna. So what do we see here? We see here that there is a very clear link between false ego and not hearing. Jai Sri Sri Radha Gopinath Ki Jai. You see the link between false ego and not hearing? So if you stop hearing, you gradually start to work under the influence of your false ego. And there is also a link between hearing and coping with the difficulties in life. How many of you face some difficulties in life sometimes? You're not so convinced, right? Not many difficulties. Can I ask again? How many of you are facing difficulties in life sometimes? Yeah? Jai Satchidananda is transcendental. Yeah. No more difficulties. Gornitai, any difficulties in your lawyer practice? Any problems? Endless problems. If you have your own lawyer office, like Gornitai Prabhu has, you are facing a lot of problems every day. Also in my role as temple president, you will get many, many obstacles on your path. So it's very important that we keep hearing instructions from Krishna, especially Bhagavad Gita, but also hearing about Krishna's pastimes in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Very interesting. So, why should we hear? We have already given a few hints, but I would like to have a quick brainstorm session. Not too long, but maybe we can start with Jesse. He has the microphone. So just out of your mind, why hearing?
To strengthen the intelligence.
Very nice. Strengthen the intelligence.
Because we, as devotees, we see through hearing.
We see, that's a wonderful one. We see through hearing. Okay? Jai Satchidananda Prabhu? Or who?
I would like to develop my Krishna consciousness, that's why.
Okay, to develop your Krishna consciousness. Jai Satchidananda Prabhu?
There's this computer program called, or in computer language, the garbage in, the garbage out. Whatever you feed the computer, this is what comes out. So we are hearing anyways, our ears are always open 24 hours a day. So whatever you hear, if it's not Krishna conscious, the garbage is coming in. So therefore, we try to eliminate the garbage and to try to actually hear the transcendental subject.
The input is the output.
Yes.
Wonderful. Vasutama Prabhu?
Hearing is the first step that you undertake when you put aside your false ego. You acknowledge that I'm not knowing everything. It's the act of, developing humbleness. I'm not completely in control or in understanding. So I'm ready to hear, to listen to you instead of listening to my own mind.
Thank you. Can I, Prabhu? And then we can go. It's okay.
To cut through ignorance?
To cut through ignorance. Yes. Om Jnana Timirandasya. Yes. Can I, Prabhu? Why hearing? Okay. Johan?
Vasutama tell everything what I thought. So,
Sorry?
Vasutama tell everything what I want to say.
Okay.
So,
Vasutama Prabhu. Rohini Nandana Prabhu? Why hearing?
Hearing or listening, because the
there are two different verbs, but hearing, I can hear you. Listening is something that changes your heart.
Yes. So listening is better than hearing.
I think so.
Okay, wonderful. Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu.
To understand ourselves and the world better.
Okay, to give some insight in your own self and in the world. Nice. Kornitai Prabhu.
To blot out all the rubbish that is repeatedly coming into my mind.
Okay, so to purify your mind, basically speaking.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bhagavati?
Because I want to have a relationship with Krishna, and for that I have to know him.
Oh, okay. In order to understand Krishna better.
I have the same as Swasutam.
Okay. Benny?
By hearing we learn. We come out of ignorance.
Okay, so to get rid of your ignorance, maybe quickly Gopinath Prabhu, and then we go to the Vaishnavis.
I'll restate what Mother Bhagavati said, that if we want to love someone, we got to know them. So we got to hear about Krishna if we actually want to love him.
Okay,
That
so
was my
before
thought.
loving him, you have to hear about him.
Yes.
Wonderful. Suyakanya?
I think what comes up is Guru Maharaj said, act like a soul, similar you used to do. Act like a soul, similar you used to do it. So actually, to hear means that we don't hear with our mind or with, but really with the soul.
So to come on the platform of the soul.
Yeah, and then of course to know more about Krishna, to develop a relationship.
Very nice. Yadurani?
So the hearing, it is always awake. You can wake up a person by hearing. You cannot wake up with any other organ, so then it is always there. And as she said, it goes through the false ego. It can penetrate through the false ego into the soul. So that's why hearing, especially when we speak about the Maha Mantra, it is just like going directly without any without the fog of the false ego.
Nice.
That's my understanding.
To wake up ourselves and others, yes?
Hearing, because we easily forget. Because when we rehearing, actually, because when we read, when we hear those kinds of topics that are transcendental, we easily forget because we are on material platform. But some basic information that we learned or that we read, we can easily remember, but they are not so important. But when we read and again, then we actually feel our consciousness. And so why to not easily forget? Yeah.
Okay, to not forget.
Hearing is for me transcendental association. When I hear from Srila Prabhupada or other saintly devotees, then I feel like I associate with them. And
Oh, yeah. So to associate with acharyas and with Krishna. Wonderful.
I was just going to say the same, that hearing for me is linking up with Srila Prabhupada, from whom everything has come to us.
Linking to Srila Prabhupada by hearing, yes?
To absorb my consciousness in Krishna consciousness.
Absorption of consciousness, yes. Wonderful. Nikunjavasi?
I thought increasing attachment to Krishna, attraction and attachment.
For me, it helps me to put everything in perspective, to set my priorities, because I have so much to do, so much is going on, and then I'm here, or I read, and then I'm like, oh, what is actually the most important? And it helps me to prioritize and
Wonderful.
continue. Yeah.
Yes, to put things in perspective. That's wonderful, yes.
For maintain the focus.
To maintain your focus, yes, wonderful. It gets more difficult now, eh? It's not fair towards the Vaishnavis.
Yes, probably similar to what already was said, but to help us overcome difficulties. When we go through difficult situations, if we hear a lot, then we will remember what scriptures say about it and how we can go through the situation.
Yes, Shamananda Prabhu always mentioned that if you go before the deities, don't tell the deities how big is your problem, but tell your problem how big Krishna is. So yeah, that's a very nice one. Yes? Linda, the last one.
To be aware of our goal, but also to be aware of why we are doing certain things.
Okay. To keep the focus on the goal and why we are engaged in the way we are engaged. Yeah. Many things. So I have listed a few, and I don't claim that it's a complete list, but let's go over a few slides related to the why. So first of all, it purifies us. Anyone knows a verse where this is clearly stated? It's a very famous, one of the famous verses in the Bhagavatam. Right. Srinvata Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Riddhi Anta Hi Abhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Well, by regularly hearing from the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam, actually it's already a spiritual activity in itself, but the purification will immediately start. All the abhadras, all the inauspicious things in the heart, all the anarthas will gradually become purified by this. Another verse I was thinking about was the verse Nitya Siddha Krishna Preme, Satya Kabunoi, Sravana Adi Sude Chitte Korye Udoi. In this verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's very clearly mentioned that love of Godhead is already there in the heart. It's not something that you should get from outside sources. It's there. Nitya Siddha Krishna Preme, Satya Kabunoi. It's inherent in ourselves. Love of God, love of Krishna is there. Shravana Adi means starting with the process of Shravana, but also Kirtana, Smarana, etc. These processes will Sude Chitte. Now, gradually we learn Sanskrit, no? Sude Chitte. It's very clear. Chitte, consciousness, Sude means purify. So by purifying your consciousness through the processes of Shravana Adi, Shravanam, etc., your consciousness becomes purified and your love for Krishna will automatically emanate. Or as we were talking about Bhagavad Gita, this verse that if you want to clean your body, you have to bathe yourself daily with water. But if you want to clear your consciousness from all the rubbish from previous lives, then Sakrit Gitam Ritam Snanam Samsara Mala Nashanam. Samsara Mala, the dirt of repeated birth and death, Nashanam will be destroyed. So it's a strong purificatory process. That's the first and foremost reason why we should hear. It's a strong purificatory process. Then one devotee said it will overcome lust. In the Bhajana Rahasyam of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he speaks about how fortunate we are that we have come in contact with Krishna consciousness. Yes? How many of you feel fortunate to have come in contact with Krishna consciousness? That's a very good sign. Sometimes on book distribution, when it went very, very bad in the summer, and everybody was sitting with nice drinks and having nice time, and you were suffering, and you were thinking, why are they so happy and why am I suffering? But it's a good sign when you feel very grateful to be in Krishna consciousness. We are fortunate. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavana Jeev. We are not Bhagavan, we are Bhagyavan. Those who are in contact with Bhagavan are Bhagyavan. They possess all the fortune in the world. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says there are 4 reasons why we can lose this fortune. And I'm not going into all the 4 of them, but one of them is called Asat Trishna. And Trishna means to drink, or you are thirsty. And Asat means you are thirsty for the temporary. So you lose your fortune if your attraction is still very much focused on the temporary things. And temporary things is called sense gratification, sense objects. They come and they go, and they come and they go. So if a devotee is still too attached to sense gratification, then gradually we lose our fortune. So there is a very beautiful verse in the Bhagavad Gita where it's mentioned how to overcome lust. Evam Buddhe Param Buddhva Samstam Vyatmanam Atmana Yahi Satru Mahabaho Kamarupam Durashidam. Thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer the insatiable enemy known as lust. It's a very important statement, which is a verse that comes after the verse Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhya param manaha manasastu param buddhiya yo buddhe paratastu sa. It gives the hierarchy of our being, starting from the sense objects. These are the lowest in the hierarchy. Then you have the senses. Higher than the senses is the mind. Higher than the mind is the intelligence. Higher than the intelligence is the soul. So if you want to curb the mind, you need something that is higher than the mind. And what is higher than the mind? Is your intelligence. And intelligence is very close to your soul. So therefore it's so important to curb the mind with a strong buddhi. And buddhi, Prabhupada says this between brackets, strong intelligence means Krishna consciousness. It's very interesting. And in order to give up all things that are related to lust, like hate, if somebody takes away the object of your lust, you start to hate that person. I gave this as example sometimes when you are in the queue on the Sunday feast and there is wonderful paneer sabji, and then you are almost there and you see that there is only one spoon left. And then that person in front of you takes one spoon and says, "Can I have one more?" And then the server just gives that last spoon of sabji, and then you come with your plate. "Sorry, it's finished." So if you are still too much on the level of the senses, you start to have like a negative feeling about that person who asked for more. Right? Therefore we have to develop our spiritual consciousness. Saner saner uparamet budhya driti grihitaya atma vashyar videyatma na kinchit api chintayat. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance with the help of the intelligence sustained by full conviction. And thus one should think of the self alone and nothing else. So this is very important, spiritual strength. Like, what is the best way to overcome material desires? Is to develop a higher taste. It is mentioned that if you are on the stage of ruchi, taste for devotional service, then that is a stage which is already beyond liberation. So if you are in the nishta stage, the steady stage, that's called liberation. So if you go one step higher, you will develop taste. And taste is characterized by the absence of desire for sense gratification. Or, as some acharyas explain it, your desire to engage in devotional service, the taste you experience for devotional service, is higher than the taste that you have for material sense gratification. So that's quite a high level of advancement. How many of you can say that you are in the steady level of ruchi? Uh-oh. Then what to do? So that is why spiritual intelligence is so important. That the gap between our level that we are now on, the gap between our current level and the level of pure taste for Krishna consciousness, that gap needs to be bridged by our spiritual intelligence. Makes sense? Because when your senses want to go to the objects of the senses, then who is the one that says no? No, 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 no. It's the intelligence. Because the mind says, yes, 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 yes. And then the spiritual intelligence says, no, 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 no. And you can only have a strong no when you absorb yourself daily in spiritual philosophy, in spiritual consciousness, by hearing from Scripture. Okay? In the purport, Prabhupada says, intelligence directed towards one's pure identity. This is the sum total of this chapter. 343 is the conclusion of the third chapter. In the immature stage of material existence, philosophical speculation, artificial attempts to control the senses by so-called practice of yogic postures can never help a man towards spiritual life. He must be trained in Krishna consciousness by higher intelligence. Another reason, it makes us spiritual stronger. As we were talking about the 4 reasons for becoming unfortunate again, one reason we already mentioned, which was asat Krishna, is thirsty for the temporary. Another reason why we become unfortunate again is by klaibyam, or hridaya dorbalyam. What means hridaya dorbalyam? Weakness of heart. Sometimes we lose our fortune in Krishna consciousness due to weakness of heart. Do you recognize that? Are we sometimes a little bit weak in our heart? Who was also weak in heart? Arjuna was weak in heart. He was called impotent, which is the worst blasphemy that you can give towards a kshatriya. You are impotent. What? Strong Arjuna was hearing this. He was like, phew, why is Krishna so heavy with me? Klaibyama smagama parta naita tvayo papachate. Ksudram hridaya dolbalyam chaktu tishta parantapa. Krishna says, rise, Arjuna, give up this weakness. And how did Arjuna become strong? By hearing. He became very strong. Now, why are we weak? We are weak because previous lives, traumas, impressions from the past, sense gratification, which leaves strong impressions on the mind. And we need to be strong in Krishna consciousness. We need to be strong on 3 levels. First of all, on our individual level. Because of our anarthas and our traumas, we need to be strong to fight the inner demons. Second level is institution. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati mentioned, that spiritual institutions are necessary evils. Sometimes you feel like, why am I in this institution? Because so many things are happening. Mismanagement, scandals. Sometimes you hear terrible things that happened in the past in ISKCON or are still happening in ISKCON. Or this monkey on a stick movie. Devotees who see this monkey on a stick, they lose their faith. So you need to be very strong to also be functioning nicely within an institution. Because you deal with all kinds of different souls that are in the process of purification and not yet fully purified. So there is still ego, there are still clashes. Fortunately, in Radhadesh, we don't have many clashes. There are some irritations sometimes, some frustrations, but I think we are blessed in Radhadesh that we don't have very difficult situation between devotees, right? Do we know something? I should know, no? Usually I'm the first person who gets to know, but I don't hear much. Sometimes, a little bit. So we are blessed. But you need to be strong. And what is the third level? Why we need to be strong? Society at large. The material society. So many impulses. So much going on in the outside world. Sometimes devotees are very afraid. Did you hear? 2025 will become a terrible year. The worst year ever. The world will be gone. You get so many, triggers and impulses from the outside world. So we need to be strong, spiritually strong, by absorbing ourselves in hearing. Then this one I like. What do you see in the face of this lady? You see joy, but does she have a face that also shows that she must have suffered a lot in her life? It's like she lost her teeth. She's really in the jara phase of her life, old age. But does she really experience the miseries of old age? With this face, you would say no. So there are many nice verses. The second verse of the Bhagavatam. Dharma projita kaito vatra paramo nimatsaranam satam vejam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapa traya unmulanam. You know that verse? It's the second verse of the Bhagavatam, 1:1:2, which is glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it says, Vastavam atra vastu. What does Bhagavatam do? It distinguishes illusion from reality, or reality from illusion. And that will trigger Shivadam. Shivadam means it will trigger auspiciousness in your life. And especially, and that's for us very interesting, Tapa Traya Unmulanam. Tapa Trai, anyone? Threefold miseries. Tapa means you feel the heat of life, you know? Tapa means heat or suffering. Try, threefold sufferings. Adhyatmika, adhibhautika, adhidaivika. These are the three levels of suffering. But Bhagavatam says that if you can distinguish reality from illusion, you will create auspiciousness, and that will solve all your material sufferings. In the third chapter of the first canto of the Bhagavatam, when we hear about the different incarnations of the Lord, you know, the 22 different incarnations of the Lord, then the conclusion of all these, hearing about all these incarnations was Janma Guyam Bhagavato Ya Etat Prayato Naraha Sayam Pratar Grinan Bhaktya Dukkha Gramat Vimuchyate. Dukkha means misery. Gramat means the cause, and vimuchyate, liberation. So when will you get liberation from the causes of misery? Not even the misery itself, but from the causes of all misery, is when we do Janma Guyam Bhagavato Ya Etat Prayato Naraha. When we hear about the pastimes of all the different incarnations of the Lord. In other words, when our consciousness becomes absorbed in hearing about Krishna, then the threefold miseries of material life will disappear. Many verses like that, but we're not going to dwell too much on each one. So please repeat, this is 9.1. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam tute guyatamam Pravakshami anasuyave Jnanam vijnana sahitam Yat gyatva mokshase asubhat. So here Krishna is saying to Arjuna that I will give you guyatamam. I will give you more confidential knowledge. Pravakshami means to speak or to use words. Anasuyave, if you are non-envious. So here Krishna says, I will speak to you the most confidential knowledge because you are not envious. And what will happen? Jnanam vijnanam sahitam. You will get knowledge and you will get realizations. Yat gyatva. And if you have those two, moksha se, you will get liberated. From what? Asubhat. All inauspiciousness, but Prabhupada actually translates it here in miseries. All the aspects of miserable life. So, Jesse, could you read the translation?
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence.
It's amazing, no? Simply by hearing the most confidential knowledge, all the miseries in your life will disappear. So what are the other miseries of life? Birth, death, old age, and disease. So we have examples. Bhagavatam also says, Ayu harati vaipumsam. You know that verse? That every day, death steals one day of our life. Right? Every day, our lifespan is reduced by 1 day. How many days you have left? That's unknown. Sorry, cannot answer that question. So let's say you have only 7 days left. So after today you have 6. After tomorrow you have 5. So here it's in this Bhagavatam verse it says that every day death is stealing 1 day of your life, except for those who absorb themselves in the process of hearing, because then there will be no more death. And we see that in the life of Dhruva Maharaj. He used death as a stepping stone to Vaikuntha. He saw death approaching, and he stepped on the head of death, and then he went back to the spiritual world. Another reason, it relieves us from illusion. What is the picture? It's a rope or a snake, so we're not going into this, but this is very many times used in the Vedic scriptures, is that our senses are imperfect, we are in illusion, and we think it's a snake and it's just a rope. And when we think it's a snake, what will happen? We become afraid. But if it's just a rope, there is no reason to be afraid. So if there was no illusion, there was also no fear. Arjuna, at the very end of the Bhagavad Gita, when he was listening the whole Bhagavad Gita, at the end he said, Na asta moha. Now there is no more illusion. Right? And there is a beautiful purport in the Bhagavatam. Maybe Jesse, you could read this one. Please try to understand this one because it's a very important aspect. It's from the Krishna book, by the way.
In the rainy season, some of the roads are not frequently used, and they become covered with long grasses. These roads are exactly like a Brahmana, who is not accustomed to studying and practicing the reformatory methods of the Vedic injunctions. He becomes covered with the long grasses of Maya. In that condition, forgetful of his constitutional nature, he forgets his position of eternal servitorship to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By being deviated by the seasonal overgrowth of long grasses created by Maya, a person identifies himself with the Mayic production and succumbs to illusion, forgetting his spiritual life.
Beautiful, right? In other words, if we don't hear, the weeds will start growing and we will be in complete illusion. So I want to really get around the why, so I have to speed up a little bit. So in the same verse that I just quoted, Nashto moha smriti labda, tat prasadat mayachuta, then karishye vachanam tavaha. So hearing about Krishna, or hearing from Krishna, gives us also a very strong impetus for to act for Krishna, or to speak about Krishna. Karishye vachanam tava is a very assertive statement by Arjuna. My illusion is gone now, my memory is restored, and I will act according to your desire. So hearing is also triggering the yes man attitude. When the Guru or Krishna asks us something, then we say, yes, yes Krishna, yes. Can you do some service? Can you help me with this? Yes, yes. Because your intelligence is strong and you know we are an eternal servant of Krishna. So karishye vachanam tavaha. In the beginning, Arjuna did not want to fight. After hearing, he wanted to act according to Krishna's desire. So here in this verse, it's one of my favorite verses of the Bhagavad Gita, 10.7. When one is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mind, such a person engages in devotional service, unalloyed devotional service. Of this, there is no doubt. And Prabhupada writes in the purport, one should not neglect to understand fully how great Krishna is. For by knowing the greatness of Krishna, one will be able to be fixed in sincere devotional service. So there is a direct link between hearing sufficiently and steadiness in devotional service. Then it feeds our chanting and it removes the dryness. It's a very important one. Maybe you remember the 11 P's that makes chanting successful. Satchidananda Maharaj worked on this. 11 P's. And the first P for successful chanting is the P of philosophy. If you know the ins and outs of Nama Tattva, then you will also be much more focused on the chanting. So you have the P of philosophy, then the second main P was people. When you're convinced about the importance of chanting, you will find people who are seriously chanting. The third P is practicing, and the fourth P is preaching. When you feel the taste of the holy name, then you want to spread it. So these are the four main P's. So if we chant, there are 3 thieves. You can see it here. Uh-oh. They steal the fruits of our chanting, and these thieves, they serve the master. And there's a master thief called inattention. It's Guru Parampara. These are the servants of inattention. So these 3 thieves, one of them is called Audashina. We have discussed that in one of the recent lectures. Audashina means apathy, apathic chanting. I've promised my spiritual master to chant 16 rounds. Okay, I do it. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. Okay, finish my rounds. Nice, next. This is apathic chanting. The second one is Lajja. This is the middle teeth. Lajja, he is laziness. You can see at the body language of certain devotees that they are chanting in a lazy way or no enthusiasm whatsoever. And the third thief is called Vikshepa. And Vikshepa, he's more in the mode of passion. It's called distraction. He's always distracted by his surroundings. I gave the example last time that when you're in the temple room chanting, then you see every devotee who goes in and out, and you have your thoughts on it. Oh, this devotee goes. Oh, this devotee comes. Oh, he's walking around now. Oh, now he sits down. This is called chanting in the mode of passion. You're too alert of your surroundings. So the cure, I think Ramananda Roy Prabhu took it very seriously. The cure is to cover your eyes when you have that problem with Vikshepa. You put a cloth over your eyes or your head. You put your head over your eye. The first one, Audashina, apathic chanting, if you don't feel this real urge to chant, it's just a goodness routine because you follow the spiritual master's instruction. Then you have to chant with somebody who is very enthusiastic in chanting. But the middle one, Lajja, laziness, is compared to a person who is in the desert and he longs for an oasis of water. So here it's compared by Bhaktivinoda Thakur that oasis of water is sufficient hearing about Krishna's name, form, pastimes, qualities, and entourage. That is the oasis in the desert for those who are feeling lazy in their chanting, no enthusiasm. Okay, it destroys doubts. I'm not going deeper into this one. It's not, the idea of this presentation is not that we cover everything, it's just to enthuse ourselves that yes, better I should start to do some more hearing. So the doubts, it's very clear in 7.1 in the Bhagavad Gita, is that asamsayam samagramam. It clears all the doubts that you have in spiritual life. Here Krishna says that in 7.1. Supreme Personality of Godhead said, now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Is that not amazing that the Supreme Lord can be known in full by hearing? So therefore, Krishna starts in the 7th chapter immediately without any trigger from Arjuna. Now you should hear, hear, hear. Because it allows us to understand Krishna in full. Asamsayam samagramam. One of the last ones. It gives joy. Anyone knows a verse that says that this is joyful? interesting. We showed this 9.1 verse where it says that if you are not envious, I will impart to you this knowledge which is most confidential, and the result is that you will get knowledge and realization which will destroy all inauspiciousness and all suffering. Then in the next verse, Raja Vidya Raja Guyam, Pavitram idam uttamam, Prachaksha avagamam dharmyam, Susukam kartum avyayam. This hearing gives us direct realization. It's a very interesting word, Prachaksha vagamam. Aksha means eyes, and prati means direct. Usually, direct seeing with your eyes is only relevant for material objects in the material world. Then you have prachaksha is one of the three evidences. When you want to prove something, direct seeing is prachaksha, is one of the evidences that apply only to material things. But Krishna says, I'm going to give you the most confidential knowledge, and by hearing about it, you get prachaksha. This is amazing. You will directly see. I remember when I was with Kiran in the Efteling. You think, what is this topic, the Efteling? But because you're so absorbed in hearing, you see everything through the eyes of the scripture. You think, this is pure suffering. You go upside down and people standing in queue for hours and everybody is expecting some. But you cannot help but seeing everything through the eyes of the scripture. Oh, mode of ignorance, mode of passion, mode of goodness, transcendental joy. It's amazing how that can give you complete peace even in the Efteling. Yeah, I can say a lot more about this. And the ultimate joy of hearing and chanting is exemplified by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gadadhar Pandit. Do you know that Gadadhar Pandit and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sit down in Jagannath Puri 4 hours per day in the Tota Gopinath temple? Tota means garden. And that they were discussing 4 hours a day about the glories of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And their main topics were Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj. They were not discussing 10th canto or Rasa Leela. They were absorbed in hearing about Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj. So joyful they were. I will skip this verse, but it's a very beautiful verse, 3.25-25. Then, maybe an unusual one, it makes Krishna big and it makes him small. Now, please explain. Anyone? How does it makes Krishna big?
You just mentioned how it gives direct perception of the self, so then we see how small we are.
Oh yes, but it makes us small, definitely. But here it says it makes Krishna big and also small. Gopinath Prabhu?
We realize how glorious Krishna is, how great he is, but small how accessible he is actually. How personally he is accessible in so many ways.
Yes.
It's not difficult to approach.
Anyone else wants to add? No? Okay, the time is a little bit limited, so first of all, when Arjuna heard from Krishna, then he says as conclusion, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Idam. He makes Krishna amazingly big. But when we continue hearing, which is a process of devotional service, in order to have a direct relationship with the Lord, you cannot have a relationship with somebody who is so big, like universal form and beyond. How can you have a loving relationship with a person who is so overwhelmingly great? Therefore, when we engage ourselves in more and more hearing, then that great Krishna shrinks into a form that allows us to have a direct relationship with him, even equal, or even where, for example, Mother Yasoda is bigger than Krishna. Or when the devotees in Vrindavan, the cowherd boys, were wrestling with Krishna, they defeated Krishna. Krishna defeated Kamsa, and the whole arena was full of thousands of spectators, and they were amazed how Krishna killed Kamsa. And then the boys, they were so thrilled that our Vrindavan boy defeated Kamsa. And they run towards Krishna and they embraced him and then they start wrestling with him and they defeated Krishna. Wow. So you can make Krishna very small also by continuous hearing because it creates intimacy. It makes Krishna appear in the heart. That's the promise also of the second verse of the Bhagavatam. Ishvaro ritya varuchyate trakritibi sushrusabhi statksanat. If you hear about Krishna from the Bhagavatam, Krishna will immediately appear in your heart. We're not going into it. And the famous verse where Krishna says, in the Vishnu Purana or Padma Purana, I don't know, I'm not in Vaikuntha. I'm not in the heart of the meditating yogi. I'm there where my devotees glorify me, where devotees hear and chant about him. Then Krishna appears. It awakens our dormant prema. We started with that. Krishna prema satchakabunoi. Sravana adi sude chitte korye udoi. Right? And the last slide on this one. Sorry. We talked about 4 causes of misfortune. We already discussed asatrishna, thirsty for the temporary. Weakness of heart, we already discussed. Aparat, one of the greatest dangers for becoming unfortunate. How will hearing help us to avoid aparats? Do you think strong hearing will protect you from aparats? What happens when you do strong hearing about the glories of the devotees? You will appreciate the devotees and you will avoid making offenses. What happens when we do a lot of hearing about the holy name? We will carefully chant and avoid offenses to the holy name. What happens when we hear about the glories of the Dham? When we go to the Dham, we will carefully avoid making offenses to the Dham, etc. And Tattva Brahma is also very important. Brahma means mistakes. Tattva means to make mistakes in the truth. If we stop hearing, we can imagine so many things and we can really deviate from the path of pure Krishna consciousness. So as a conclusion, why? Well, it purifies us, it strengthens us, it relieves us from suffering, it destroys illusion, it gives impetus to act for Krishna, it feeds our chanting, it destroys doubts, it gives joy, it allows us to understand Krishna in full, it makes Krishna big and small, it awakens our dormant prema, it makes Krishna appear in the heart. Wow. So, what's the conclusion? Please hear. Please hear. Please hear about Krishna from Krishna, because it's the first and foremost limb of devotional service and it triggers all this. So now it's time for prasadam. We did the why, so that means we still have to do when, how, what, and what happens. So we have to speed up this evening. I hope you will come again at 5:30. I hope it was, we all know this, no? It was not new. It's ever fresh, right? So just talking about hearing is already so nice. So what to speak when you really hear about Krishna? It will be even more ecstatic. So please come at 5:30 in the temple room. We will continue with the when and how. Okay? Thank you, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Jesse, for reading nicely. Sometimes he's a professional reader. Right?